Hello and welcome. I'm Doyle. I'm the founder of creativeflow.tv and a business development coach for creative business owners and their teams. I'm really excited because today I'm sharing with you the unspoken secret to high performing teams. Now, you might be thinking, yeah, sounds a bit hypey. Trust me, this is something that is not normally talked about in day-to-day business. And I really wanted to bring it to your attention because it's something that massively improves your performance and the performance of your team as well. So if you have people that you're thinking, well, actually, I know they could be doing way more than that. They've got massive potential. Or maybe you even have one or two problem members of staff that aren't performing the way that you would like, perhaps even causing challenges with you or other members of staff. Then stay with me because you are going to love what I'm about to share with you. And I've got some examples as well where I'm going to show you how this unspoken secret actually can, make a difference in different kinds of situations. Okay, so the first example is where is a workshop that I did with a small business. There was only 4 staff, yet still in a one-day workshop we were able to identify how they could add £180,000 to their revenues in only 1 year. And the way we did that was by looking at how they could apply this unspoken secret. Another example is a business owner that I worked with quite recently who had been having sleepless nights because A, they were concerned about how they could manage their staff best, and B, they were also having sleepless nights because they had one member of staff that actually is causing a lot of problems and not performing and being disruptive with other members of staff as well. So, and then the third situation is a company I've been doing some work with who they have one team member who is actually a manager, so it's a multi-team organisation, and they have one of the managers is a real bottleneck in the organisation, particularly when it comes to new business. So that's pretty critical that they get that sorted out. So I'm going to explain what the secret is and how it applies in each of these 3 situations. So maybe there's something there that you can recognise for yourself as well. Okay, so the unspoken secret to high performing teams that isn't vision and purpose, which are both really important things, by the way, but they might be what you were thinking it is and it isn't. It's called flow. And as I said, this is something that's not normally talked about in business, so you may or may not have heard about it. So let me explain what it is. I want you to think about a time when you have been at your best in your business. So think about a time when everything has been going smoothly, or you're confident of achieving your objectives even when you have challenges ahead of you, where you have felt really good and engaged with the work you're doing, when things are just seem to be really motoring along, and where you're having fun and you're really engaged with what you're doing, and there's a high level of performance. That is flow. Some people might call it being in the zone. And there's often a change in your sense of timing as well. So imagine like an athlete, say you had somebody playing at Wimbledon, and so they would have time would slow down for them, that they would have time to be able to, get to the ball and return that really hard serve, and they're able to do it effortlessly. Or maybe you've experienced it in the way that you've gone like, well, that was only 10 minutes, and you look at the clock and you're like, oh my gosh, 2 hours have gone by and I was having so much fun I didn't even realise. So this is the kind of feeling that you have with flow. Think river rather than a lake, which is very static, because a river is moving. A river is overcoming those boulders and rocks that are in the way. It doesn't try and stop and fight with them. It doesn't get stressed about them. The river just goes over and around the obstacles that are in its way. And that is really what you want to be like and what you want your teams to be like in business. Now, if you think this sounds fluffy, trust me, it isn't fluffy, because there are very hard-edged business results that come about because of this as well. Such as kind of, 6-figure returns on workshops and things. And just really, even more importantly than that though, I mean, money's great. Yeah, of course money's fantastic, but it's not everything. And the great thing is that when you and your team members are in flow, it's impossible to be stressed and in flow at the same time. Okay? It's impossible to be stressed and in flow at the same time. But most people don't know how to consciously create flow for themselves and for their team members. And the interesting thing is, and this is like a biggie, okay, is that you actually can't get yourself in flow. You can only be in flow by helping other people to be in flow. And the way you get in flow is by following the path of least resistance, i.e. following the natural strengths and abilities of each person. So everybody who gets to spend the bulk of their time, I mean, even up as high as like 80% or something, that can have a massive impact on your performance when people spend that in flow. So let me go back to the stories that the case studies I was talking about earlier. So the small company with only 4 staff, one of the reasons that they were able to identify how to add so much revenues to their business is that the business owner had not been doing the things that had them in flow. Why? They felt guilty. I know that's why it sounds mad, but they felt guilty because they loved doing these things and they felt guilty that they were getting to do them and the staff back in the office weren't, because this person was very extroverted, great at networking, having meetings and everything. And so they felt really guilty that the other staff members weren't able to do the things that they found so much fun. But in the course of the day, that business owner discovered they didn't want to do the things that she found fun. That actually terrified them, or just was definitely not something that they wanted to do. So by just readjusting the way that they were spending the time and the tasks and activities and strategies that they were using to develop their business, it was just like, boom, how they were able to identify how to grow the business. The next situation I talked about was the business owner who was having sleepless nights, wondering, well, how can I be a better manager for my staff, and what do I do about this problem person? Well, in talking with them, it really looks like this problem person is in a role that is really not right for them. Now, in this particular instance, it's a smallish business. There's a few teams, but there maybe isn't an exact role for them to fit into. We'll see what happens as their conversations proceed, and maybe we'll do some more work around that. But for that leader to understand it wasn't them, and maybe it wasn't kind of just an attitude problem with this person, that there was something more going on here, and they could completely see that probably what they were like and the role they were in were actually complete opposites. So no wonder this person wasn't performing. You see, the thing is that if you want to be able to trust people to deliver, then they need to be in flow, because trust and flow are like the opposite sides of the same coin. The more somebody is in flow, the better job they're going to do, and the more you're going to trust them to deliver. So the more you give them that kind of work, and you get this wonderful virtual cycle of things getting better and better, and performance just like really going through the roof. Whereas what this person was experiencing was the complete opposite, that their performance was getting worse and worse because they were getting more and more out of flow, and there was less trust in the situation. So trust and flow go hand in hand. You can't separate the two, really. And I'm not talking about, somebody being honest or having integrity. I'm talking about you being able to trust them to deliver. I mean, obviously the honesty and integrity is really important too. And then the third example where the manager is a real bottleneck in the organisation, the challenge there is that they're not delegating. And the reason they're not delegating is because any strength overdone can become a weakness. And so for this particular person, they are a very highly creative person. As I said at the beginning of this video, tend to be head in the clouds, innovating all the time, very big picture thinker, but they're not good with detail. And they have a team that could be doing a lot of the detail work, but because they move so fast, their other team members, which have different strengths to them, they kind of feel like, oh, well, they can't keep up because they're moving at a different pace, so I have to do it because they won't do it the way I did. So there's a whole host of stuff there around the way they delegate and what they delegate to who, that, in clearing that's going to unblock their block to flow, which means they are then going to have the time to be able to support the other leaders in the organisation to be able to bring in lots of new business because they've got everything else in place to do that. So there are specific tools and principles that can help you to be more in flow and to help your staff to be in flow. Because as I said, you can't get into flow on your own. You can only get into flow by helping other people to get into flow. And I would love to have a chat with you more about this and to let you know more about it. So here's what to do next is book a meeting with me. Either click a link if you can see a link somewhere, or just message me and say yes, I would like to have a call with you, and we can get that set up. Because there's so much to this, and just to explain it in a short video, and I know it's not as short as I wanted it to be, but it takes a bit more explaining, and really, I can't know how this can apply in your situation without learning more about you and about your business and what your big goals and aspirations are, and what the single biggest challenges are in you achieving those. And I'd love to have a conversation with you about that. Okay, I will sign off, and I look forward to speaking with you very soon. Bye.